had that ability or the capability to do the forecasting, then you would have been a trillionaire in the market this one. So this is something which, if you know that the soybean oil prices are going to go up in, let us say, in the month of August or September, and the prices are now lower, and you are 100% confident that the soybean oil prices are going to go up, you will buy soybean oil, you'll stock it over in the tanks, and then you will sell it in the month of August or September in 2022, so that you can earn about 30 or 40% higher prices that you are seeing, which you are forecasting actually. But it doesn't turn out to be so, because your forecast will always not remain what is, because there are so many uncertainties. And secondly, what is price? Price is something which is what people estimate the demand and supply likely to be, and what are the alternatives and the prices of the alternatives, and accordingly the price of soybean oil gets determined. And so there are so many alternatives, and so there are so many factors which decide whether I should today consume palm oil or I should today consume soybean oil. And another factor which has come into soybean oil demand, which is your use for the biodiesel actually, which no one in the market had witnessed that soybean oil will be used to a larger extent, particularly in this year, and that led to shooting up of the prices, not only of soybean oil but also palm oil, because palm oil is also used in production production of the biodiesel actually. So having said that, there are so many unknown factors which are there in the market, which you don't know, which you do not include in your modeling, which the market does it so beautifully that the prices converge onto the prices that it discovered sitting in December for the month of August or September in 2022. And you could see a very less difference between the prices in a liquid futures market that is discovered in the month of December for its delivery in the month of August or September. So that's the beauty of the market actually, as Dr. Girish had indicated. Okay, having said that, why these markets came into being. So these markets did not come in today or yesterday. These markets have been there as old as Bombay Stock Exchange. So imagine, so this is a market which is not a new market. This is a market, this is as old as Bombay Stock Exchange. It started in 1875. In 1875, what happened in 1875 was, in 1875, there was the American Civil War. And in India was ruled by the Britishers actually. So any of you can open your mic and tell me what the Britishers were doing in India during their colonial period.
Sir, industrialization, sir.
Yeah, kind of industrialization. What they did was they used India as a place of trade, that is trying to procure whatever that India produces at a cheaper price and sell it at a higher price in the world actually. So what happened was, cotton is also one of the product, and cotton is cotton is largely spun in Manchester, because Manchester is known for its textile industry way back in 1870s and 1880s and 1900s actually. So what the Britishers used to do was, they used to ship cotton out of Georgia, which is the US state which grows a lot of cotton, which was stopped because of the US Civil War in 1874-75. As a result, the Britishers have started looking at India as a source of supply. So typically, cotton takes around 7 to 8 months in terms of sowing to supply, and then from supply to shipping, and then from shipping to it getting converted into textile products, and then realizing the final end product price by the Manchester textile millers. That's about 10 months to 12 months, which is a pretty long period when you compare the cotton consumption or the start of cotton procurement until realization of the final prices on the textile products, which is produced by the Manchester-based textile millers. So what is the best way that they can do it? What is the best way that they can do? Can anyone tell me? What should they do? Because by the time they procure, let us say for in the month of December now, and then they will realize the final product price in the month of December in 2022. So there is a good 12 months of period during which cotton prices can go up, during which the textile prices may go down. So what is that best they can do? They will lock up their textile prices. They'll say that in December, I will supply so many meters of cotton of this texture, of this weaving pattern at this particular price. On the other hand, their cotton prices are open, so they have to procure at whatever the prices the market is selling at. And that is where the Britishers have started Bombay Cotton Association in 1875, in the same year as Bombay Stock Exchange in 1875. So if anybody in future asks you, when was the Commodity Futures Exchange started? In the same year as the Bombay Stock Exchange, which is 1875. And what was the commodity it was trading? It is cotton, which it was trading actually. So having said that, the market that existed at that particular point in time were all floor-based trading. And hope you may have seen those exchanges wherein people used to shout from two sides, which is one on the buy side and the other one on the sell side. They will shout the prices of those contracts, which was up for auctioning actually, so that you can, so that the register clerk can actually note down those prices which are shouted by the traders. They, at the end of the day, they close the book, they will match the trades, and they will announce it at the end of the day. So that remains the day's price for that particular market actually. Okay, so imagine in 1875, forget about 1875, 1930s and 1940s, you didn't even have a telephone. You just have the telegram network, and you have to send a telegram to the broker to say that, why don't you hedge my cotton exposure in Bombay Cotton Exchange, and I will transfer you the money, or I will send you the check. And check takes about 10 to 12 days to get realized. And then, for you to send the check, it takes around 10 to 12 months to do that. So they remained as, regional exchanges participated only by the regional traders and also supplied by the farmers within that particular region. Maybe Maharashtra, maybe in and around Maharashtra and nearby Gujarat or Karnataka. So these were the farmers who were able to participate. And so these were regional, these were focused on few commodities, these were floor-based, not electronic. And there was a constraint in accessing those markets. Okay, so that is where the price discovery in those commodities remained largely regional, not national actually. So in 1930, there was this Hessian exchange in Calcutta that started, and then in 1940s or 50s, Indian Pepper and Spice Trade Association in Cochin had started trading in spices actually. So that, having said that, a lot of such regional exchanges started up until 1960, and 1960 was the year of Bengal famine, and that was the year when governments stopped or banned trading in most of the futures in commodities, or the forwards in commodities. So at that point in time, it was the forward contracts which was getting traded on the forward exchanges actually. So those were stopped in 1960. And government again opened up, the debate of should we allow, should we not allow commodity futures market, starting from 1990 onwards into 2001, 2002. Finally, it was the Kabra committee, which, so there were so many committees, which include Khusro committee and things like that. Finally, it was the Kabra committee, which had recommended opening up of futures trading in some of the commodities, which was also followed up by a World Bank report, which said that, India should open up futures trading in commodity derivatives. So it was debated, and and then a decision was taken that few commodities could be allowed as far back as 95, 97. But in 2000, the World Bank report, which came in, had suggested that why not India take advantage of the information and communication technology that is available and use the same information and communication technology that is fueling the stock markets and launch the commodity derivatives market in India, actually. So this is where the debate about launching the market started in 2000. And are you aware what is the big major economic event that happened in 2000? What happened in 2000 as a major big economic event in India? Okay, no one is aware. Let me tell you. That was the year, if you aren't aware, go back to your economic history. That was the year when India had joined WTO as a full-fledged member of WTO. So when you join WTO as a full-fledged member of, the World Trade Organization, then you are opening up your agricultural commodity derivatives market to the in the global markets. So that is to mean that India should never ever stop export or import of agricultural commodities. Okay, that's number one. Number two, when export and import of agricultural commodities happens, that happens driven by the global market forces. And global market forces, be it in London, be it in Chicago, are pretty well known because of the existence of exchanges like Intercontinental Exchanges, Chicago Mercantile Exchange, and London Metal Exchange, and European Commodity Exchange. So these are some of the exchanges that existed in the Western Hemisphere that has been helping the farmers to give them a price signal to tell them that if you sow this crop at this particular point in time, you will get approximately this price. And if you want to lock in this price, then you sell it in the futures market in the month when you are harvesting, so that you will be able to deliver the contract in the month, and you will be getting that price, which is for sure you will be getting in the futures market by locking in your price. So that is the function of the futures market. So looking at that experimentation, or looking at that institution which existed in the Western markets, which is the futures markets, such as the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, Chicago Board of Trade, or the Intercontinental Exchange. So the Indian government had decided that we will launch our commodity futures market in India, which will help the farmers to decide whether they will sow rice, whether they will sow wheat, whether they will sow soybean, or they will sow groundnut, depending on ability to sow the crop and the market's ability to absorb the crop, which the farmers come up, sow the crop and come out to the market with the produce that they produce, actually. So there were a number of constraints. Not all the markets were prepared to procure soybean. Not all the markets were prepared to procure cotton in those areas, actually. So if you talk about Indore in the Kharif season, farmers in that particular area do not know anything other than maize or soybean. So they usually grow maize or soybean. Even if you would tell them that, hey, this is cotton, this is a black soil, you can grow cotton, they'll say that the market doesn't pick up. I don't have a market which can procure the cotton that I produce, so that I won't be able to. So there were constraints in using the market-based information also, but the government had thought that our farmers should be well equipped with advanced information on prices, so that they will take efficient decisions as to what crop that they grow. So as a result, the commodity derivative markets were liberalized in 2003 as part of national agricultural policy. This is not as part of the national trade policy. This is not as part of the national commercial policy or commerce policy. This is part of national agriculture policy, that the commodity derivative markets were introduced way back in 2003. So what existed in before 1960 and after 2003, these were regional exchanges before 63, and the exchanges that today are that are existing in the markets are all the national futures exchange. That means They are nationally connected. Traders from Kashmir to Kanyakumari can put in their trade, provided they are connected to the exchange. They have become a client of a member and they are allowed to trade in the market actually. So it's a nationally connected market. And the second part is about the price discovery happens by converging information from production centers, consumption centers, trading centers, and trying to decide what will be the price at that particular point in time. So these are factors which you will definitely not be able to incorporate into whatever the perfect model that you can build it up in terms of your price forecasting, which is built up into the markets, into the minds of the people who are participating in the market. So that's the beauty of the market actually. So somewhere it is also called as wisdom of the crowds. The crowd meaning to say that the traders which are there in the futures market and how they apply that wisdom to arrive at the prices which finally prevails and proves that that is the price that remains in the market actually. Okay, so let me go to the so okay, so having said that, this market came up in 2003 and has been growing, and this market was regulated by Forward Markets Commission. And later in 2015, the regulation of commodity futures markets were taken over by Securities and Exchange Board of India. So I represent the institution, which is National Institute of Securities Market, which is an outreach initiative of Securities and Exchange Board of India to develop human resources who are well versed in securities market. So where are commodity derivatives in security? So commodity derivatives as a definition is a security. So that's how commodity derivatives come defined under security, and hence it is regulated by Securities and Exchange Board of India. Okay, having said that, so that's the history of the markets. And from the history of the markets, the markets have grown leaps and bounds till about 2009, 10, 11, 12. But again, the markets had witnessed a decline basically because of one big tax which came in, which was the commodity transaction tax that led to reduction in the volume and some of the commodities getting out of the markets actually. So that is the growth and development of the commodity futures market. So let's come into what impact the commodity futures market had made on the farmers, on the traders, on the consumers, on the economy. So that is very important for you to understand as students of agricultural economics, why it is so important that an economy should have a commodity futures market so that it can have an efficient agriculture sector, so that it can have in the overall efficient primary sector. Primary sector refers to your metals and minerals, and also primary sector refers to your agriculture, fishery, and forestry products actually. Why would you need that? You need that so that the stakeholders hedge in those markets and they remain cost efficient in terms of what they produce, and they have enough of money to do furthermore investment in improving their production and productivity, and so thereby the nation's productivity of different crops continues to improve by improved varieties, higher use of fertilizers and things like that actually. So as a farmer, as my income is stabilized, I will be able to look at what I can save, and also I will be able to utilize what I can invest in boosting the productivity of what I grow, and so thereby I can increase my income, and so thereby I can increase the nation's production and productivity. Well, having said that, there is an important part. Are farmers knowing about it? No, farmers are not knowing about it, firstly. Secondly, the production of the crops are are function of price fluctuations that are happening in the market and asymmetric price information. And oftentimes that you would see that when the crop arrives in the market, as the crop starts arriving in the market, the prices will be at their low. And as the crops start, getting out of the market, the prices will be at the peak actually. So there is a huge fluctuation between the arrival time, the peak arrival time, and the lean season in the markets actually. And there is the rainfall risk. If the rainfall is not good, production is going to be lower and the prices are going to be higher. and your production is going to be lower, and your realization, though the prices are higher, your realization may at times go lower than what you were expecting actually. So that's another risk that you are. So having said that, the biggest risk that the farmers have taken is the price risk. Another risk is, that the credit, so, oftentimes they don't have access to credit, and hence even the credit that is available to them is available to them at a very high cost, though that leads to a higher cost of cultivation. And most of the times that after harvest, you can see that farmers just bag it up and clean up the grains that they produce, bag it up without any grading, without any standardization, and come to the markets. And that is the point where traders welcome. You give me ungraded, unstandardized product, I will give you a very low price. I will grade it, I will standardize it, and I will sell it at a higher price. The farmer tends out to be loser without knowing if he grades the commodity, if he standardizes the commodity, he'll get a better price actually. And besides that, you must have seen the farmers' agitation in the border because, they do not want, the current APMC regime to go. And so they want to still go to the APMC market and give the wheat into the market. And so thereby they can do it. So APMC laws, though it has been liberalized in many of the states, it is still not liberalized in some of the states. So farmers have very less choice in terms of where they would sell in those states where the APMC laws are not liberalized. Though we have today electronic national agriculture markets, which is ENAM, where you can spot trade those commodities. Okay, having said that, your sowing signals are coming in from the prices that are prevailing at the time of sowing or just prior to sowing are the MSP that the government assures. So oftentimes this is the MSP that you see only on the paper, but when you come to the market, that is not the price at which the traders will be picking up, and there won't be any government agency that will be offering you that MSP procurement price actually. So oftentimes this is a misconstrued signal that is given to the farmers. As a result, farmers often end up taking a wrong sowing decision. And price risk, when I decide on a particular crop, I see a particular price. When I come to the market after harvesting the crop, I see a different price. And there is always the quality risk, there is always the volumetric risk, which is affected by the rainfall, and the credit risk, which is always remained, which is something beyond the hand of the market, but yet the price risk can be taken care by the market actually. So as a result, how the market helps the farmers, it helps the farmers in selecting the proper crop, which is based on futures prices actually. And this is a good signal rather than the prevailing price at the time of harvest, which may not prevail when he harvests and brings the produce actually. And if this is just a signal and you want to lock in your price, you come on the market and sell your produce in the futures exchange, and so thereby you'll be able to get that price which you are seeing in the market. So that is the the benefit that the farmers get. One is signaling, and two is assured prices if you are able to participate actually. Three is efficient value chain. Efficient value chain, I will give you examples about how commodities create efficient value chain with the examples which is there at the back actually. And then better credit mobilization and warehouse receipt based funding, increased awareness and adoption of quality standards, because the farmers are not usually aware about increased awareness and adoption of quality standards. So, but with the coming up of the futures market, at least in some of the niche commodities that I can give you with solid example, that farmers today are much more aware about the quality standards than what they were before the futures contracts were introduced in those commodities actually. And then rising investment in market infrastructure. So market infrastructure used to be pretty much concentrated in major trading centers, not in the major producing centers. And as a result, the farmers often lack access to the marketing infrastructure, which includes standardization and grading, quality testing, and warehousing. But with the coming into being of the futures market, we could see that the market infrastructure, number of institutions which support the market infrastructure, such as quality testing labs, grading and standardization facilities, and scientific warehousing facilities had increased in the growing area. As a result, today the farmer is much more equipped to bargain a better price from the market, using not only the warehousing facility, not only the grading and standardization facility, but also using the futures prices signal that are available in the futures market and negotiate with the immediate seller and get a better price actually. So that is the advantage that one has got in terms of the prices actually. So in order for us or the farmers to be empowered basically to enable that they get the prices what they see in the market. What exchanges have done is they've used all the media or the audio video media to actually disseminate the prices. You take the TV channels, you take most of the rural and the national exchanges actually, so national newspapers. So there, a dedicated portion of the paper, apart from the stock market or the stock prices, it is also given to the commodity prices actually. So, and then apart from that, the exchanges also, through their applications, they also disseminate the prices over to the farmers. And there are tickers which are installed in some of the APMC markets on which the prices are actually disseminated. Websites such as the Gramin Suvidha Kendra and then the websites of MS Swaminathan Research Foundation, Kerala State IT Mission are all supplied with prices, and so thereby the farmers can use the prices and take advantage of the prices by bargaining for a better prices actually. So there are a number of ways in which today farmer can take the prices and use these prices to arrive at what is the price at which they will be willing to sell, compared with the earlier situation wherein they didn't have any clue. They just packed the produce, what they produced, go to the market and put it for display and go to the traders. Traders have often this advantage that they know what they have come to procure or how much is the quantity that they have come to procure. Farmers do not know how much is the quantity which is required by the traders. So the traders use the situation, often buy the produce at a very low prices than the prices that may be prevailing at the next level in the market. So there they are sitting there to take advantage of the price differences that exist between level 1 in the market and the level 2 in the market, where they would be standardizing, grading, and selling it to the next level in the trading or the next level in processing actually. So prices are an important factor to decide cropping, to decide when I should sell the crop, whether immediately after the harvest or maybe 3 to 4 months after the harvest, so that I can get a better price actually. So, and if I want to lock in that particular price, can I sell the futures in the market? Yes, you can sell the futures in the market. At the same time, can I get a loan on the produce? Yes, you can get a loan on the produce, because if you put it on a WDRA, Warehousing Development and Regulatory Authority accredited warehouse, and then take an electronic negotiable warehouse receipt, you can go to a bank and pledge the warehouse receipt and take a loan on that. And so thereby you can take care of your next crop or your social expenses, and then wait for the better prices, and then pay back your loan, release your commodity, and give it to the seller in return for better price that he's willing to give after 3 or 4 months after the harvest. So that we could see in many of the crops, where the futures were introduced. The farmers have seen 1 to 2 month ahead prices, and they have actually taken a decision to hold the commodities, and they have benefited by that. And it's not by us, it is by the independent academicians who went into those markets where the commodity which the exchanges were trading was being grown by those producers, and they took advantage of the 2 month ahead price signal, held the commodity, they received a better price actually. So it helps them to sell the crop at the time that they would want, that they are getting the right kind of price. For the exporters who have committed or who would like to commit their exports 2 to 3 months in advance, they can participate in the market buy it in the futures market, they can build up their margin on the the buying prices in the futures market, and they can sell it at a committed price 3 months in advance actually. So he is locking in his export margins. So that is another advantage that you get. What is the advantage that a bread manufacturer or a wheat flour manufacturer, he gets it, he buys the wheat for a future use at a particular price, and then he sells it at a particular price after 3 to 6 months, and he locks in his margins between the wheat prices and the flour prices that he is selling. And so thereby his profit levels remain the same, and he is happy, his investors are happy, and he will continue to earn what he earns. And even the farmers are happy if the farmers have sold it at that particular price actually. Okay, what are the benefits of futures market which are existing? It's a national market where the information about the demand and supply gets converged by many of the traders. And when I say many of the traders, in today's commodity futures market, there are about 35 lakh participants who are participating from across 1,000 towns and cities actually. So to say that, what is the fact that it would, for example, the people in the south would, given a chance, will like to have rice, or people in east would like to have rice, compared with people in west or north who would like to have a wheat based product actually. So all of this is a function of what is the demand that exists, what is the weather condition that prevails actually. If it is too cold, there is a possibility that people in east or south would prefer to have more of wheat based products rather than the rice based products. So all of this gets converged through 35 lakh participants in the futures market, that wheat price is likely to be so because of the supplies that it is estimated that it is so and so, and the demand is expected to be so and so. And so I believe this is the price that might exist in the wheat market actually. Oftentimes this came out to be true. The market was able to predict the prices much in advance. Not, I would say, accurately, but better than any one single person who would have predicted that particular price actually. And secondly, the farmer can plant the crop, and in addition, because there are people who are financing against those commodities, they know what the future prices are. They can give a better or a higher crop loan on the same value of the commodity compared with a market where the future prices are not known actually. So if you know the future prices, then use these futures prices to decide the value of the crop. Say in the month of March or April, this is the price, this is the quantity that will be available with the farmer, multiply that, that is available with the farmer, multiply that with the price that may prevail in March, and give to the extent of 90% of the value of that particular this one. And if you still want to lock in your price, as a banker or as a lender to the commodity, you can go to the market and you can sell that particular commodity at that particular price. And so you are locking in your future exposure on that particular credit to that commodity actually. And easy availability of finance also ensures there is a streamlined supply chain, and and it finally leads to a better realization of the crops by the farmers actually. And as I told, because you can sell it and sell it today for the future price realization. So that means you are managing your risk of a price fall that can happen if you are a producer, and if you are a consumer, you are managing the risk of a price increase that may happen in future. So both of you converge onto the platform, agree to a particular price, and carry that price but forward actually. So what is getting traded in the futures market? It is the futures contracts which are getting traded. This is where my riddle got solved. I told you in the beginning that I entered into MCX as chief economist, heading the research division, without knowing, what is, how you can sell the commodity without even holding the commodity, and then without even delivering the commodity, how you can buy and come out of the market, because it was actually the futures contract which is getting sold and bought in the market. So when I say it is a futures contract, it is a financial instrument whose underlying is the commodity, which is for March delivery, which is for April delivery on that particular place of that particular quality on those dates, typically for about 3 to 5 days. At the end of the month or in the beginning of the month, it gets delivered in the futures markets, or to say that in the warehouses it is getting delivered. How does the seller get the commodity? Seller does not get the truckloads of wheat. Seller gets the title to 10 tons of wheat, which is one contract. If he has bought one contract, the buyer will get title to 10 tons of wheat, which is actually one lot size of wheat futures, which is traded in the commodity futures market actually. So he gets the title, which is transferred from the seller to the buyer. In return, the exchange ensures that the money is received from the seller and given over to the buyer actually. So all of this is happening through the trading and surveillance mechanism that is set up by the exchange, and the clearing and settlement mechanism, in addition to the exchange accredited warehouses, which are also mandated to be WDRA accredited warehouses actually. So in the warehouse, you go, you weigh the commodity, you take the quality certificate of that commodity, and then you can deposit the commodity. You will be issued a warehouse receipt at the time of delivery. When the money that is due to you is transferred to you, same time the title of that particular commodity which is sold in the market is actually transferred to the buyer. So that is how the delivery happens, and the selling and the buying happens on the financial contract. So always remember, it is not the commodity which is getting delivered, it is the warehouse receipt, the title transfer of the warehouse receipt which is getting delivered. On the other hand, you have to remat that warehouse receipt and go to the warehouse and then take the commodity for your use. If you want to use it, this is how you have to take it out. And what is getting traded? It is not truckloads of wheat or 10 tons of wheat. It is the contract whose underlying is 10 tons of wheat, which is getting traded. Unless you end up delivering that particular commodity, you can financially square off that particular contract. Let's say, for example, 25 rupees a kg is your wheat price, and then a contract size is around 10 tons, and then it's about 10 tons multiplied, which is 10,000 kilograms actually, and 10,000 kilograms multiplied by 25 is 2,50,000 rupees, is one contract size actually. Let's say, for example, the price of wheat goes up by 1 rupee. Within 2 to 3 days, you can buy wheat at 25 to 2,50,000 rupees, and in 2 to 3 days, you can sell it at 2,60,000 rupees because it went up by 1 rupee. You had got a benefit of 10,000 rupees and you come out of the market actually. You don't need to deliver wheat, you don't need to take delivery of the wheat, and you can just trade in the financial contract, and that is ensured by the exchange that the prices are discovered fairly, adequately, with with sufficient amount of people trading in that particular commodity, which is also called as liquidity in the market actually. So the efficiency of the price discovery in the market is a function of liquidity. So the liquidity is nothing but a technical word of amount of volume that is getting exchanged between the hands of the buyers and the sellers actually. So the more the volume of trading, the more efficient in that contract in terms of its price discovery process. Not only price discovery process, the price risk management process in that particular contract will be more efficient if it remains highly liquid contract actually. And on the other hand, exchange and the prices that are there, it stimulates infrastructure, it stimulates scientific warehousing services. We're going to look into how that is getting stimulated, and will the farmers benefit directly or indirectly. In my experience, and from the perspective of the level of farmers and their access to banking channels and their the size of the farms and the size of contracts which are getting traded on the exchanges and things like that, in a general sense, farmers will benefit largely indirectly rather than directly. But there are also farmers who are large enough. Let us say, for example, if you take wheat as one of the crop, oftentimes, farmers in the north, most farmers in the north may not have more than 2 to 3 hectares, and with the 2 to 3 hectares, they may be getting around 6,000 or 7 tons of wheat, which is of the quality which is deliverable actually, and so he cannot deliver against 1 ton which he wants to sell in the market, so he cannot participate in the market. So there is this knowledge of futures market, there is this access to banking channels wherein he has to have the bank account to become a trader or the seller or the hedger in the futures market. So you don't have access to bank account, you don't have a PAN number, because a PAN number is essential or mandatory for the farmers to participate in the futures market. So they normally their incomes are not taxed, so they don't have PAN numbers. So, and as a result, you could see that farmers don't end up using the markets, but using the prices, to take a decision. So when we talked about the efficiency of price discovery, so here is an example that we had worked out when for mentha oil, chana, and refined soy oil, actually. So except for refined soybean oil, where the prices which were predicted by the futures market at the time of sowing, compared with the harvest price that existed, most of the predicted prices were nearer to the spot price at the time of harvest, actually, compared with the spot price that prevailed at the time of sowing, actually. So don't be confused, but I will share the numbers in terms of this slide with Dr. Girish. You can go through it, and this is just a layman's explanation, actually. So here are you guys who has to look at what is the spot prices which are announced by the futures market, and what are the prices which prevailed in the futures market in the past with respect to discovering the prices of the delivery in the future and things like that, and try to measure the efficiency of the price discovery in those markets. It is very essential to do research in these markets to tell that whether the price discovery is efficient in the futures market, and hence the price risk management in that futures market will be efficient, will remain efficient or not. So these are essential things that you have to be aware. You have to, as researchers, look into the futures market, the futures prices, the spot prices, and see whether there is price efficiency that is coming up. And oftentimes, because there are inefficiencies in the market, there might not be convergence between the spot and the futures market at the time of delivery. So at the time of the delivery, the spot and the futures market will have to be nearby, so that I, as a hedger, will see the benefit of delivering or using this platform for delivering the commodity, or I, as a processor, using the platform for taking delivery of the commodity. And so thereby I am not only locking up prices, I'm also getting the product at that particular price. And so thereby I can take away the product right into my factory, and so I can process it, and then I can sell it at the price that I would want to. So if there is no efficiency of price discovery, then there is no efficiency of price risk management as well. So it is for you researchers to look into those prices, the prices which are discovered, and measure whether there is efficiency of the prices or not. Here is another thing that I told you, that in the lack of price information, that before the futures market came in and after the futures market came in, that we could see that the price correlation between the producing markets and the futures market remained not only extremely low in some commodities like tur and wheat. The prices where the correlation between the prices between the consuming markets and the producing markets were even negative. Negative is meaning to say that the prices in the producing centers are going down because the crop is coming up, but in the consumption centers, and let's say in south or east, the prices are going up. So to say that because of the lack of information that otherwise will be available through these national exchanges, the prices were very less correlated, actually. So that is an essential aspect of the market, which you have to be aware, that it integrates the fragmented markets. The price signal that goes from this market integrates the national, markets actually. Okay, so having said that, what are the commodities that are getting traded? There are many non-agri commodities, which is bullion, metals, and energy commodities. So we are least bothered about those commodities. Coming to the agriculture commodities, we have wheat, we have coriander, jeera, turmeric. So we have large crops such as wheat and cotton, and then soybean, and so these are like 3-4 large commodities that are broad commodities that are getting traded. Beyond that, you have like niche commodities such as jeera, turmeric, CPO, mentha oil, cardamom, and many black pepper. So these are commodities which are getting traded. Unfortunately, some of the crop commodity futures are not liquid. So when I say not liquid, that means there is not much of volume happening on these markets, and end of the day, the price discovery in these markets are getting deteriorated. And as per the regulatory norms, exchanges will do away with the futures on these commodities because these are illiquid for a fairly longer period in time, let's say for about 6 months. If they remain illiquid for 6 months, as per the regulatory norms, they will have to take away the futures. So apart from the futures, a commodity derivative also means a commodity futures and commodity options. So there are commodity options on futures and there are commodity options on the spot, which are traded in the futures market, which includes gold, silver, copper, crude oil on the non-agri side. On the agri side, your guar, chana, wheat, maize, soybean are also traded in the agricultural commodity markets. So the Punjab farmer that I've told you that he's not able to take a PAN number, he's not able to deliver even one contract of the exchange, and he doesn't have access to the banks. All of this can be resolved if we can aggregate in terms of FPOs, and FPOs, take a PAN number using their entity that they have created, and they can open up a bank account. They can aggregate the farmer's produce and maybe sell not one lot or one contract on the exchange. They can even sell 5 or 10s or multiples of 5s and 10s, and so thereby helping the farmers lock in their prices, in turn disbursing these prices over to the farmers again. So that is the advantage that you get through these aggregators, who can store, who can sell it, who can assay, who can grade it, and then also use the commodity which is stored in the warehouses to take a bank loan and give loans to the farmers at a cheaper price, because they don't have their crop with them and they need money immediately after the harvest. So they can store it in an exchange accredited warehouse or in a WDRA accredited warehouse. In turn, they can go to the bank and they can take a loan and extend the same loan to the farmer at a lower interest rate, because it is considered as a priority sector lending. So these are advantages that the FPOs, the farmer producer organization, can bring into the market. So having said that, the participation is largely through the indirect mode, or the benefit is largely through the indirect mode, and the direct participation can only be possible through the aggregation mode. But in commodities like cardamom and mentha oil, we have seen farmers coming and delivering their produce actually. So there are other solutions which can be done, which is through the ITC e-Chopal or the larger trading firms such as Cargill, Louis Dreyfus, or Australian Wheat Board. They can come to the market, they can hedge their exposure, or FCI or NAFED can hedge their exposure and give a fixed price to the farmers. But unfortunately, they are so far not that very active in the commodity futures market, and hence the farmers are still on the margins in terms of their participation in the futures market actually. So let's get into how we could make that change in the case of let's say cardamom actually. So those who are from Kerala or Tamil Nadu, or for that matter anybody in the country can can tell how do you determine the quality of cardamom? Can anyone open up? your mic and tell me, how do you determine the quality of cardamom?
Maybe by color and aroma.
Okay. Anyone else?
Sir, strength of the lint.
Strength, the length of the capsule, you mean to say?
Yes, sir.
Size of the capsule?
Size and strength of that material.
Okay. Okay. And the color of the seed coat, correct?
Yeah.
The color of the seed coat has to be green in color. And the green color deteriorates if you keep cardamom open in a highly moisturized condition, because the seed coat absorbs the water and the quality of the aroma deteriorates both inside and on the seed coat over a period in time if you keep it exposed to the market actually. So that is a big constraint in terms of storing cardamom in the hilly areas, basically, where it is being grown. So because it is grown in the hilly areas and it cannot be stored, the entire value chain in cardamom moved to Cochin, because Cochin is a major trading center for cardamom actually. So as a result, the price discovery for that particular commodity was happening in Cochin, which none of the farmers have access to. This was the situation prior to the launch of the futures trading based out of Kattapana in the Idukki district in Kerala actually. So the exchange that I worked for, as indicated by Dr. Girish in the past, had took a courage and said that though cardamom is getting traded in the other exchanges, we will also launch a contract, but completely different specifications in terms of what is the quality of the cardamom that we will deliver and where we will deliver. We will deliver it in Kattapana. So when it is being delivered in Kattapana, then it becomes more close to the farmers, and the farmers can understand how the trading happens. So the cardamom basically consists of four sizes of capsules. One is 7 mm and above. The other one is between 6 and 7 mm. The third one is between 5 and 6 mm and below 5 mm. So the above 7 mm goes in, meets the demand in the Middle East, where it is used for making a coffee concoction using cardamom and coffee, which is a favorite drink in most of the Middle Eastern households actually. And so cardamom gets a better price if it is 7 mm and above actually. And then between 6 and 7 mm, the cardamom goes to the North Indian markets. Between 5 and 6 mm goes to the South Indian markets. And then, below the 5 mm goes to the masala making or flavor extraction industry actually. So accordingly, as the size goes down, the size of the price of the cardamom will also come down actually. So in a lot, let us say, for example, 20% of the cardamom is, these 7 mm and above, and 30% of the cardamom is between 5, 7 and 6 mm. And then 40% of the cardamom is between 5 and 6 mm. And then only 10% of the cardamom is about below 5 mm. So if the farmer grades and sells the commodity, or if the farmer sells the commodity ungraded, what will happen in terms of the price realization?
Lesser prices. He will get less prices if he will sell ungraded commodity.
Correct. Since they are selling ungraded commodity, they will get lower prices because they don't know what is the price that they would get. They don't even know how much is the percentage of 7 mm that they have got. They don't even know what is the price of 7 mm, what is the price of 6 and 7 mm actually. So as the exchange came in and said that you have to deliver only 7 mm, the grading center got set up, because the produce has to be graded and delivered on the exchange. As the exchange had come in and it has to be delivered in Katapana. It has to set up a scientific warehouse in the delivery center actually. And grading cardamom is not a big capital intensive investment. It is just 4 sieves, which is matching to the cardamom capsule size, which I mentioned, depending on the grades that they have, and which hardly costed at that point in time, 10 years ago, around 50,000 rupees. That was invested by the broker, and the market or the investors in the market saw that this is a big opportunity for us basically to actually use this as a platform to sell the commodity and to actually grade the commodity and then earn out of grading the commodity. So you won't believe that infrastructure facility, which is grading and standardization, expanded like anything in the cardamom growing area. And as a result, the auction centers, which is the spices board auction centers, which were there in the hilly areas, had started receiving increasing amount of cardamom that was graded cardamom rather than ungraded cardamom. So slowly and slowly, people have started storing the cardamom into the exchange accredited warehouse and also into other scientific warehouse, which was set up by the entrepreneurs actually. And so thereby they can wait for a better price on the exchange or sell it on the exchange and deliver it on the exchange. In addition to that, the exchange warehouse or the exchange accredited warehouse was also connected to a bank, where the farmers can go pledge their produce and then take a loan against that produce so that they can continue their farming into the crop for the next season actually. So those were advantages which were brought in, which was exactly copied by other investors in actually developing the market infrastructure, which includes grading and standardization and storage and financing of the commodities and things like that. And as a result, today, if you go to the cardamom areas and talk about cardamom, they fondly remember those days in which they use the MCX platform either to take the advantage of the prices or to sell the cardamom in the MCX platform and deliver it on the market. And when we went to survey the exporters even said that, so sitting in the month of December for March delivery, we could take the delivery and commit our prices way back in December so that I can lock in the margin between my selling price and the buying price, and so that I can stabilize my income from the exports business that I'm entering into. So as a result, a lot of the traders who were sitting in just to take advantage of the price opacity that was prevailing between the markets have vanished, because one, information is available across the web, across the internet, through the television channels, through the local newspapers and the national newspapers, is the commodity futures market price. And that can be used by the farmers and the consumers and the processors to bargain for a better price. And so thereby the value chain, which used to be completely mixed up, has become straight, where the planters gave it to the processors or the graders and traders, and then that got delivered on MCX, and on the MCX the traders and the wholesalers have taken delivery actually. So it got simple and straightforward. So having said that, this cannot be extended into a larger or a broader commodity such as wheat, tur or urad, but it will take its own time for the farmers to understand what it means and for the the ecosystem to develop the this one. So as a result, what had happened, that the financing of warehouse receipts had gone up very highly against that particular commodity, and so farmers were happy, and the prices also, when increased, farmers are able to hold the crop and sell the crop at a higher price. So that's an advantage that they had got in cardamom. So is the case with mentha oil. Mentha oil, as you must be aware, is produced in the Uttarakhand area, mainly in the place of Chandausi. Chandausi is a major market for mentha oil. And mentha, where do you guys know that this mentha oil is used? Where is mentha oil getting used?
Maybe in pharmaceutical industries.
Correct. In producing?
I'm not sure about it.
Yeah.
Maybe in for essential oils also.
Yeah.
Customer patient.
Obviously essential oil. And there are many things today, that use mentha oil. Pharmaceutical industry uses mentha oil because it is a major ingredient into your cough syrup. Okay, so pharmaceutical oils are the major users. Apart from that, today you have mint flavored toothpaste, you have mint flavored shampoos, and what else and what not actually. So that is also mixed up in many of the consumer goods actually. So not only that, it is pharmaceuticals, and consumption of pharmaceutical products had increased over a period in time. It's used in other consumer goods also, increased over a period in time. So that is actually the mentha oil. So that actually led to a higher demand and, challenged our ability to supply to the higher demand that came up into the market actually. So this is where that I could see that, I could pretty well claim that the price signals that, helped the farmers to shorten the, price value chain that existed, the commodity value chain that existed prior to the futures market coming into being and after the futures market coming into being actually. So mentha oil is basically from the mint crop, and mint is usually sown in the Zaid season after the summer, after the winter crop, before the summer season begins. So it's between the winter and the summer. It's a Zaid season in Uttarakhand, somewhere in Uttar Pradesh, and also it's grown up to Punjab and Bihar to a little extent actually. So that area in which the mint is growing has also been witnessing a high growth since 2004-5 onwards actually. I'll come to that number at a later point in time. So that is the mint crop, the pudina, which you use it for making biryanis and the masala, the spicy salnas and things like that. So that's the mint crop, which is used by the which is produced by the farmers, and the leaves are harvested and they are dried and they are distilled basically to actually get the mentha oil liquid. And so because it is distilled, there is always a problem that water also can actually accumulate along with mentha oil, despite whatever the accuracy that you may have actually. And hence the final economic value of the given mentha oil produces the amount of mentha oil, the actual mentha oil that is existing in a given liquid. And how would you test it? Using gas liquid chromatography. And gas liquid chromatography, if you ask your biotech or the biochemistry colleagues, including your microbiology or pathology colleagues, they'll tell you it costs running into 1 or 2 lakhs, depending on which brand you are buying and things like that. So because it was costly, it was not set up in the rural areas. It was in the town side, which was in Chandausi and various other Barabanki, Chandausi and those areas, rather than in the growing areas where the farmers distilled the crop and brought in. So they had to, before the futures market, they had to sell it to the village pooling agent. And what is the quality check that he had? He will dip his fingers into the barrel of oil that was brought to him, and he will smell it to say that if the intensity is high, I will give you this price, and if the intensity is low, I will give you this price. And oftentimes this village pooling agent sold it to a broker, and the broker, before he sells it to the manufacturer, he will go to a lab, he will quality test it, he will understand what is the concentration of mentha oil in the liquid, and then he will bargain is produced from the manufacturer. And then finally the manufacturer will make the crystal out of mentha oil, because water gets evaporated, mentha is crystallized, and then it is either given to the local processing companies or local consumers or to the exporters, where it is getting exported to many of the foreign countries actually. So that supply chain got pretty shorter, because as mentha futures got traded, the exchanges have set up their trading terminals to let the farmers educate what Mentha futures prices are and what are the prices which are prevailing. How would you use these prices to bargain better prices? Where do you get your quality standardized and things like that? As the demand from the farmers increased in terms of more quality standardization, more facilities came in, not only in the big town areas, but also in the small town areas that was accessible to the farmers. So today, more number of farmers are actually selling quality tested Mentha oil compared with the farmers that existed prior to 2003, 2004. As a result, the farmers' price realization went up higher, and also the value chain shrunk a lot. As a result, the value chain for Mentha oil became as efficient as having only about 3 to 5% as the margin that existed between the farmer and the final manufacturer or the exporter that is there in the market. So as a result, that we could see that not only the average price, export price moved up because of the higher usage in the pharmaceutical industry and the consumer goods industry, we could see that the area had tripled because farmers saw that as a profitable opportunity to grow Mentha, and so thereby distill and deliver the Mentha oil at a very high price. And as a result, the production and the area and the crop increased. What couldn't be achieved by various subsidies for that particular crop that might have existed for enhancing production of that crop could be achieved by way of futures exchange, making these prices available to the farmers, empowering the farmers with the better prices, and empowering the farmers with better selling decisions actually. So thereby they could increase the production of the crop and productivity of the crop. And if you go to Uttarakhand, Mentha oil is normally referred or commonly referred as green gold actually. So the productivity, the production, everything increased, and at the same time, the quality standardization facilities, which were just about 5 prior to the futures market, that increased to 40 to 45 when we went in for the survey as to how many GLC centers were existing. And you could see that value chain margin also shrunk up. And so as a result, you could see that more number of farmers growing. India was able to export more amount of Mentha oil actually, and so thereby more export realization, more income to the farmers. So this is what exactly I would call as a successful example where a futures market was actually able to influence the production productivity of the crop, and so thereby increasing the incomes of the farmers actually. And given time and fair price discovery for many broad commodities, futures market can repeat the same experiment to a larger extent on the broader commodities. But these commodities, for example, have been marred by various price distortive policy attempts, which includes your MSP, which includes your oftentimes export ban and import ban, and then tariff rate increase and tariff rate decrease. And so that basically induce non-fundamental related information based price discovery, which is policy based price discovery. That means tomorrow, whether the tariff rate for import of crude palm oil or import of soybean oil will increase or decrease, accordingly they will trade the soybean oil prices. They'll completely forget the fundamentals actually. So we need an efficient market, and in order for an efficient market, government has to get away from price discovery process or the price dictation process, or get away from those policies which actually influences the price discovery, so that we have efficient commodity futures market that can discover better prices for the benefit of the farmers actually. So these are some statements which have been there in the UNTAD study, which is in turn proving you that the futures have directly or indirectly helped the farmers. But cardamom is a very niche crop, and hence you cannot generalize these findings, but often this can be generalized had there been some broad commodity where there is no policy sensitivity, and hence there was a good price discovery that could happen. So this is about the Mentha futures market. Similar thing had been done in potato before it got banned in some time back, actually. And same could be seen in many other crops as well, actually. So these are some of the studies which you could even use, you could even get into to do primary survey to see that what benefit that commodity futures trading had inculcated in those commodity ecosystem by particularly selecting commodities in discussion with the exchanges to see where there is good price discovery, where there is good participation by the ecosystem, so that you can go to those ecosystem and find out whether it actually benefited the ecosystem in terms of making the value chain efficient, helping the farmers, with better price realization, helping the processors with the lower procurement price, helping the processors with locking in their margins. So these are, different angles to the market, which are benefits to the ecosystem stakeholders, which you can explore, examine, come up with studies based on primary market and tell to the exchanges, this is what it can take. So for the lack of time, I'm actually limiting this to what is the impact the futures have impacted. But if you would want me to tell what the futures contracts are, what goes behind the design of the contracts, how does it getting traded, give me another 1.5 hours. I'll be happy to come and discuss that with you. So with this, I'm happy to close this within 1 hour and 25 minutes that you have given to me. Thank you, everyone. And I'm happy to address if you have any queries and remove your, questions that any.
Thank you, sir, for your wonderful insights into the future trading.
Okay.
And I really enjoyed listening to you. I am working in NRRA, National Rice Research Institute, and there we have one project called 4S4R, linking where we are creating the FPOs for rice seed sector. So even also is the domain of these FPCs are getting expanded in nowadays, and they are